How's it going? Adam Drake here, and today I want to share a little information about servicing your differentials for 8-scale nitro and electric. So there's not really a standard, kind of like with a car. Depending on the oil you're using, they may recommend 3, 5, 10,000 miles. With an RC car, we don't really have a limit or a schedule service for the differentials. And a lot of that is because there's so many different variables: the track conditions, the brand fluid you use, the type of grease you use for the outdrive and diff cup ring gear. And just kind of want to run down kind of a, I guess, general recommendation for that. Again, if you have a program that works well for you, you can stick to that, but just kind of want to give what I recommend or a general rule for myself. So a lot of it depends on the size of the race or importance of the race. If you're just practicing in club racing, it's no problem to put 4 to 6 days of running on your car, which I guess would equal out to maybe 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons of running. If it's a bigger race or more important race, I like to always start with fresh fluids in my diffs, and then depending on how much I practice, in most cases I practice the most with my nitro buggy. So after practice and qualifying is done, a lot of times I will freshen up and service my diffs for my buggy. For nitro truck, a lot of times I don't practice a ton. So if I go to like a 3 or 4 day race, like I just got back from the Mugen Challenge, on my nitro truck, I was able to run the 2 days of practice, day of qualifying, and finals, and my diffs are fine. I didn't need to service them throughout the week because I started with them fresh. My nitro buggy, I practiced a bit more. So after 2 days of practice, day of qualifying, before the final, I did freshen up and service my diffs. And then the nice thing with that is you only put, the final was 30 minutes, so only put warm up and 30 minutes on the diff. So if I want to go practice club race or have a series race coming up, my diffs are still in really good shape, so don't necessarily need to freshen them up for that. But a good general rule of thumb, I would say 3 to 4 days of running is when you should service your diffs. Now, when servicing your diffs, there's, I think, kind of a misunderstanding. I think a lot of times people think like, oh, the fluid's dirty, that's why I need to service the diffs. Well, that's part of the reason. Another part of the reason is where the outdrive cup goes into the ring gear or into the actual diff housing. It's really, really important to make sure the O-rings are in good shape, and also that you use a really good grease. There's tons of different greases out there, but hands down, the best grease I've ever found and what I use all the time is the Mugen white premium grease. Part number is B0339. This just seems to basically stay in place the best. Like if you use a black grease or a lot of other white greases, lithium grease, things like that, it does work good. It just seems to go away much quicker. So for me, I'm mainly servicing my diffs because I want to make sure I have a fresh grease bond or fresh grease between outdrive and ring gear and diff cup. Now, the weight of the fluid you're running also can make a difference. So if you're running really thin diffs, especially in the center, the fluid can kind of get cooked or burned up a little bit quicker. So you may need to service the diffs a little bit quicker. The kind of general rule is the center diff is going to see the most load, the rear diff will see the second most, The front is the least amount of load. So in most vehicles, the center will kind of see the most abuse and damage, then the rear, then the front. But again, just general rule of thumb, it's never a bad thing if you want to service your diffs a lot more frequently than kind of what I'm recommending. Kind of serious racer, I would say every 3 to 4 days. And if you're just kind of club racing, doing some local events, I would say you could go 6 to 8 days at the track, or kind of in that 1.5 to 2 gallon range before servicing your diffs. When you are servicing the diffs, it's also really important, check the gaskets, check the O-rings, check the outdrives for wear, because if the outdrives, you want some wear so you have the mechanical bind, but if it's too worn and the cups start to get notched, the car won't handle as good, won't go through bumps. It will just make the suspension feel really stiff and kind of bound up. So hopefully this helps kind of give you a little bit of a maintenance schedule when servicing your 8-scale vehicles.